Attack on Titan is a series built upon wrong assumptions and lies. We are made to believe that humanity is on the brink of extinction due to gigantic zombie-like creatures, only to find out that humans of a particular race have been turned into these mindless creatures to keep the people living within the walls, well, within the walls. These humans were brainwashed into believing that they were what was left of the entire human population when mankind continued to thrive in elegance beyond the walls. One of the story's many lies, however, would be the tale of the Marleyan hero Helos. The amount of the storyline that revolved around him was very minimal, but within this tiny amount of time, Helos had become part of one of the greatest lies that only existed to further Marley's political agenda and maintain the idea of every Eldian being horrible due to their nature as devil spawns. In today's video, we'll go over how Helos became Marley's greatest hero and how it was actually all a lie. What is the story of Helos? The end of Eldia's tyranny was no mere miracle. However, it was promoted as such, with Eldia's greatest victim, Marley, recounting the story of a Marleyan hero named Helos who led the nation and the greater world to its freedom. But how did Helos do it, and where did he find his opening? During Willie Tybur's speech in Season 4, the Eldian noble who was respected across Marley retold the story of Helos to the world officials. It all began with Eldia claiming so many lives with their rule that one could cause the world population to perish thrice, and the number still would not amount to the death toll that Eldia left in its wake using the devilish power of the Titans. Naturally, their powers made them invincible, and they had no worthy opponent, which led to the 8 Eldian noble houses beginning a civil war among each other. Each of these houses held one of the 9 Titan shifters, while the Eldian royal family, who had the founding Titan, wasn't part of the war. This internal bloodshed came to be known as the Great Titan War, and eventually became the reason for Eldia's downfall. It was an endless cycle of conspiracy, betrayal, and bloodshed, which began to cause the glorious empire to crumble from within, and this was the opening that Marley needed. The great Marleyan hero Helos took advantage of this chaos and used his cunning to add fuel to the fire, amplifying the internal rift between the Eldian noble houses. He was as beautiful as he was heroic, as strong as he was clever. Helos used his abilities to slay the devil of all Earth, who was responsible for giving founder Fritz the power of the Titans. This devil was considered to be an integral part of Eldian mythology, which is why Ymir's subjects were often referred to as the children of the devil. Despite the figure's infamy, Helos was the man who had successfully slain the devil without getting a scratch and caused the noble houses to crumble by manipulating them to fight more. To honor Helos' bravery, Marley displayed a giant statue of the hero impaling the devil. Ultimately, Helos teamed up with the Tiber family, who held the Warhammer Titan as one of Eldia's families, and forced King Fritz to retreat to an island with his people. Thus, the great Eldian Empire fell, and the 145th king was left with no choice but to relocate to the secluded island with the other subjects of Ymir. This is the story Marleyans and the rest of the world were taught. Helos was the hero who made the king of Eldia retreat against his will. The king was confined within the walls made of colossal titans, and people believed that the Eldian royal family, with their founding titan, was still susceptible to attacking the world outside because they could cause the rumbling and flatten the earth. He was respected, not just by the Marleyans and people from other countries, but by Eldians who lived outside paradise as well. But, as we've mentioned before, this entire ordeal was mostly false propaganda. Is the myth of Helos a true tale or a glorified legend? This story of Helos was one that was fabricated for Marley so that they could have their very own Marleyan hero, and this is what Willie Tybur addressed on the day he declared war on Paradise Island due to the existence of Eren Yeager. He said that the Eldian rule was not brought to an end by the Tyburs or Helos, but by the 145th king of Eldia, Karl Fritz. Titan shifter or not, he had always been a man dedicated to peace. A pacifist by nature, Karl Fritz's heart ached for the people of Marley, who suffered so much for the sake of Eldia. He was also sick of the civil wars being fought by the people of his own country, so he conspired with the Tiber family after becoming the founding Titan, and together they created the story of Helos to act as a figurehead without giving away too much information about the technicalities. The plan to turn Eldians against other Eldians as part of fueling the Great Titan War worked out, and Eldians began to gain other enemies. Karl Fritz took the disoriented opportunity and relocated most of the Eldians to Paradise. Using his powers, he erected the walls named after after Ymir Fritz's children, with each wall being home to hordes of colossal titans, who, when released, would flatten the earth. He then told the outside world that the rumbling would be carried out if other countries threatened his own as a form of retaliation. He really wished to live a normal life with other humans, since they had been so deprived of the normal. However, this was what Karl Fritz had said, and not what he did. In reality, he believed that if Marley were to ever attack and annihilate Paradise, it would be okay for them to do so, because Eldia's sins were too grave to be atoned for. When death came knocking on the door, he wished for his people to accept it instead of fighting back. His decision to renounce war made the future wielders of the Founding Titan fall to his pacifist will. This created a situation where, although only a member of the royal family could use the powers of the Founding Titan, they would never be able to gain access to Ymir's entire range of powers because they had been shackled by Karl Fritz's vow, mentally in the real world and physically in the Paths realm. Despite being willing to accept whatever misfortune awaited in Eldia for Eldians, the king wanted his people to live good lives before their imminent annihilation. This is why the world within the walls was named after Paradise, since it was supposed to be a world devoid of conflict. This was what led to Paradise not being a nuisance for a century, but the conditions changed with the Founding Titan falling into the hands of Eren Yeager. Due to Eren not being restrained by the king's vow of peace and his desire for rebellion, Willy Tybur declared war against Eren Yeager, and by extension, Paradise. Now that we've gotten the real story out, let's talk about an interesting common factor between how Helos killed the devil of all Earth in the story of his heroism, and how Ymir Fritz died. For starters, the devil and Ymir are not the same. The devil was known to be the malignant being who gave Ymir the powers of the Titans, when in reality, she got it after the source of all living matter attached itself to her. While Helos impaled the devil with an arrow to take it down, Ymir passed away after intercepting a stray arrow shot by a rebel at the Eldian king who began the tyranny of the Titans. Who is the new Helos of AOT? There is no canonical new Helos in Attack on Titan, but the trajectory of the life led by a certain someone reminds us of Helos to an extent. And this person is the narrator of the show and the best friend of Eren Yeager, Armin Arlert. Like Helos, Armin is also known for his brains and his ability to be cunning when the situation calls for it. He doesn't shy away from manipulating his opponents. He would often use Annie as bait to catch Berthold off guard because he knew that Berthold was in love with Annie and would react negatively to talks of her being tortured by the Survey Corps. Helos was known to defeat the devil when that wasn't not true. While Ymir herself was never the devil, Eren took up the role of the latter and was ultimately killed by Mikasa. Following his death, however, Armin claimed that it was he who had killed Eren Yeager. The reason why Eren even went as far as he did was for his Eldian friends to slay the devil, bring an end to the power of the Titans, and become heroes. Eren let the Alliance win for this reason. However, the world outside and what was left of humanity were oblivious to Eren's true goals. They believed in the story of Eren being the devil who was finally slain by the Alliance, in particular Armin. Like the story of Helos, this was a story made for political purposes, with a figurehead claiming to kill the big bad guy even when he didn't. It was also necessary for Armin to take the public credit for killing Eren instead of Mikasa. As part Ackerman and part Asian, Mikasa was always physically incapable of turning into a Titan. However, not only was Armin an Eldian who could turn into a Titan, but he was also the destructive colossal Titan. His being the one to become known for killing Eren created a higher chance for the present-day Eldians to find redemption in the eyes of the world. We also have etymology to draw a parallel between Helos and Armin. The name Helos is derived from its Greek counterpart, which is where the English word hero arose from. At the same time, Armin is a name with German and Persian origins, and it means guardian or defender, and both terms can make someone a heroic individual. All in all, there are obvious parallels between Helos and Armin, and although this parallel may not be super important to the plot itself, it adds that extra layer of rich depth to the lore of Attack on Titan. We also see a cycle of hatred with history repeating itself over and over again, which makes the Helos-Armin connection even more on brand for the story. Marvelous verdict! The reason why the story of Helos was one of the greatest lies in Attack on Titan was because of how unrealistic it was. In a world where huge militaries and combined efforts paled in front of the power of the Titans, how could a single hero from the country that is suffering the most take the ultimate win? The moment we heard the story, we knew that something strange was cooking beneath the surface. And yet, this story drenched in lies with just a sprinkle of truth was absolutely necessary for Marley to find the morale and become the powerhouse of war that it did. Without which, this story of Attack on Titan never would have gotten any traction. And with that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of Helos? Did you like today's video? Don't forget to comment down below and share your thoughts with us. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.